What's up, friends? You got Gypsy back here today with NPL Season 6 Finals up against Anthony Zazo, my good friend on Flash Gaming. This is sure to be a tight one. Anthony is, one of the best players in the format, and he's had a fantastic season in the NPL. He almost went undefeated. He lost a few, I think, but he played really well, and this dude has like an insanely broken team. Like, as you can see here, my man has Zygarde, Mew, Volcanion, Thunder Eye, Kothag, Roserade, Snorlax, Celesteela, Stunfisk the God, Mega Heracross, Silvally, and Kabutops. So he's got a really strong, versatile team. So many options, both offensively and defensively. Just a really fantastic, a lot of people have said this is a very broken draft. I'm sort of in agreement with that. I think it's just a fantastic draft. It doesn't mean it's like, there's anything wrong with that. Anthony's just drafted really well. And he made a series of late season trades that really benefited his matchup versus myself and Matty Brolick. So he got, likely finals players. The kind of reasoning behind that, in my opinion anyway. I'm just assuming this, but typically that's what Anthony does, and it usually works out for him. So he has Zygarde, which is a massive threat to my team. It is one of his Z move mons, so it can really break past Shaman with the right set. Then he has Mew and Thunder Eye as, secondary Z users, which are just like Thunder Eye is terrifying for any team especially with Z moves. So he also has Celesteela, which kind of hard checks my Gardevoir, even if I am carrying T-Bolt. Celesteela really takes it on well. Even if it's like Vulcanberry, it can be an offensive variant, which could have been a big threat versus my team. So that was definitely something I had to account for when building for this. Roserade is a pretty big threat versus me. T-Spikes aren't fun, so I do have Scolipede, as you guys can see there. But yeah, basically Anthony's team is just really strong, really solid. It doesn't have the best speed tiers in the world. Thunder Eye outspeeds the majority of my team, but barring that, his second fastest mon is Mew. So it's not like he's got a ton of speed on his team, but he does have great trick room support options, which come in the form of Mew and Kothagrigus, which can support like a banded Snorlax to really dent my team. I have picked up Jubilate on my roster, so that may deter him from bringing like a normal spam team again, but he also might not predict me to bring that because Jubilate does kind of invite in Zygarde. So I've built a team today. As you guys can see here, this decision for what team I bring for finals went through many phases. I'll just show you, I think I built 5 teams, but only 3, at the end only 2 I was taking seriously. So this was another team that I was considering. So this one here, considering Scarfed Bulky Shaman to catch a +1 Zygarde off guard. Really powerful offensive Gardevoir with T-Bolt to echo Celesteela. Fast Life Orb Zapdos, same Infernape set, same Scarlet set, but basically a Natural Gift Ice Dugtrio was an option to help me take out Zygarde. And the kind of thought process on this team was that my whole team either 2-hit KOs Zygarde or OHKOs him, so nothing really gives it a chance to set up. But I did find this team was quite vulnerable to stuff like Snorlax. It was vulnerable to Baton Pass boosts into stuff like Celesteela and Zygarde and Snorlax. So I felt, although it was a very fun offensive team, I was going to be more comfortable with something slightly more balanced. So I did have this Toxapex balance as well, but I don't know, Toxapex was kind of underwhelming, and it was a lot of the time just setup bait for stuff like Mew, even Mega Heracross, because Ice Beam doesn't come close to breaking a minimally invested Heracross's sub. So yeah, pretty fun team. I had a Software Scooter on the squad, but the team we ended up deciding on, and what I ultimately felt comfortable with, is this one here. And we are going to be bringing this Gardevoir set. Now this guard outspeeds a Adamant max speed Zygarde. I don't expect it to run Jolly. He has no reason to run Jolly, absolutely no reason. If he does, that just means my Shaman takes it on better, my guard can take it on better. But I am expecting Adamant max speed Zygarde with more than likely the Z Outrage. I don't expect it to run Z 1000 Arrows. It's just kind of bad versus me, and my Gardevoir lives Z 1000 Arrows anyway, as long as he's not a +1. So yeah, this set basically, you see the Destiny Bond on here, it guarantees me a kill versus something like a heavy slamming Celesteela that I don't want to switch my Zapdos into. It guarantees me a kill versus Banned Snorlax. which is a pretty big threat to my team. It means I can, yeah, just remove a real troublesome mon in a pinch if I need to. If Gardevoir's main role has been, achieved, I can just sack it off with Destiny Bond and take down a big threat. So Hyper Voice, Oko, Zygarde, even without investment. Psyshock will Oko Roserade after taking a round of hazards, which is really nice. And Hyper Voice does, huge damage to stuff like Thunderous, outright almost taking it out after rocks, depending on its set. Just a really solid mon. As I said, Taunt is just nice to prevent sort of like a slow fat Mew from defogging. Also nice to prevent like recovery on mons like Snorlax or something like Rest Silvally or something like that. Also prevents his Stunfisk, his lead Stunfisk, from setting up hazards versus me, so that's kind of nice. But yeah, basically this guard is a secondary check to Zygarde. I can take a +1 1,000 arrows with my defense investment, provided I haven't taken any damage. I can switch in on rocks and take a +1 1,000 arrows basically with this defense investment, which is really solid because Zygarde is an enormous threat to my team if it is an offensive variant. So guard is essential in that sense. Then we have my nice offensive Scolipede. Now, this set, I was originally Life Orb. I had Life Orb Megahorn, which allowed me to 2-hit KO, minimally invested HP Zygarde, which was pretty solid. But I felt like, I felt like this set was clutch in the sense that originally I had Rock Slide of a Poison Jab to allow me to take out a Thundy after rocks with a Life Orb Rock Slide, but I felt like Poison Jab was superior in the sense that a Z Poison Jab just destroys Thundy, provided it's not like a bulk up set. It also lets me deal more damage to the Heracross, which is important, as well as Okoing Roserade without having to risk missing Megahorn. So this set, I just felt as though, like, whilst I will miss the Life Orb damage versus Zygarde, it's solid in other ways that my Life Orb set couldn't achieve. So setting up T-Spikes is crucial for my strategy, as we will go into later. If he doesn't bring the Roserade, I am expecting him to bring the Roserade because it is a nice sort of T-Spike soak up mon. It also sets up hazards for his side of the field, which stuff like his Zygarde really appreciate, especially if it's an offensive variant or even like a Dragon Tailing variant. Does appreciate having the spikes up. I do see Roserade coming. It's a solid switch into my Shaman as well, as a Psychic Resist Berry variant of Roserade may also be one of his checks to Gardevoir if he opts not to bring Stellar Steel, or if he opts to bring an offensive variant of Stellar Steel. So that's a set I could definitely see coming. But getting my spikes up anyway, is just amazing for this team. With spikes up, certain shaky Okos from my Zapdos versus his team, I turned into guaranteed Okos. Spikes is just really solid, as you'll see as we progress through this team builder. So yeah, this set is nice and offensive. I needed as many ways to check Thunderous as I could, as well as the kind of utility offered by these hazard supports. So next up we have Shaman. I didn't really want to run a max physically defensive set. I wanted to run some sort of nice unexpected gimmick on Shaman, but Zygarde is such a threat that I'm kind of forced into this route. I'm kind of forced. You saw on my other team I had a Scarfed defensive Shaman, but it's kind of dead weight, because if I'm forced to lock myself into HP Ice, which gives them the switch out to something like Heracross or Roserade, at least with lefties and Leech Seed I can protect, do a bit more residual damage in that sense. I can scout for Z move with Protect. You see I'm not carrying Seed Flare on here, which may make very little sense, but realistically he's got some great switch-ins to Seed Flare spamming Shaman. He has Celesteela and Roserade, which don't care about Seed Flare at all. I'm not a fast defensive variant, so it's not even like I can Seed Flare into Psychic versus the Roserade. Seed Flare just wasn't really doing much versus his team. It barely touches Mega Heracross too, so this Shaman looks extremely passive. It's more of a pivot into stuff like Celesteela. It's obviously a design check to his Zygarde if he is the Dragon Dance C variant, but yeah, basically a necessary mon on my team. Leech Seed support is really appreciated by Goodra, as I'm going to go into later on as well, so that's kind of the thought process behind this Shaman. Next up we have Zapdos, an offensive Life Orb set, again creeping a Adamant max speed Zygarde, so this speed is pretty nice versus this team. I don't expect Zygarde, as I said, to be running Jolly. If he is, he's significantly weaker than if he's Adamant. But this speed also lets me outrun like a Mew that doesn't have a shitload of speed investment, as well as a Roserade creeping something like my Goodra or like a minimally invested Shaman. With spikes and rocks up, I can Oko a relatively fat Roserade with Life Orb Air Cutter. If he's an offensive variant, I just need one round of spikes up to guarantee the Oko. This Zapdos can really threaten his team. HP Ice kills Zygarde after rocks if he's an offensive variant. Guarantees kill. It's a very strong role in my favor to kill from full if he's an offensive variant. But just getting at least rocks up, or preferably a spike on his side of the field, allows Hidden Power Ice to guarantee the Oko there. So unless he's like a Yachi Berry variant, but in that case he's significantly weaker. Air Cutter Okos just destroys Mega Heracross, which is really nice because that thing is a threat. As I mentioned, it's nice with the Roserade. So it's also a nice revenger for stuff like Volcanion as well. It can 2-KO Mew if he's not especially defensive, even if he's like max HP after rocks, which is really nice, and preferably a spike as well. So yeah, pretty nice threat. It can really put in work like late game if a lot of his checks have been removed, or even just like break mid to early game for my Goodra or Gardevoir to kind of win late game. So then we have Infernape. This is actually a sad set this week, purely because I want rocks. Thundy is crucial to get that chip off. If I get rocks, chip off on Thundy, then I can ensure my Scholar Peak and take it out with Acid Downpour, even if he's at +1. And then from a bulk up or something like that. But yeah, basically all the hazard damage I can get is really appreciated. If I can't get spikes up, I at least want to make sure my rocks are up. Sash Endeavor allows me to remove an annoying Mew that may want to like Psychic me turn 1 and set up rocks. I can set up my own rocks, then Endeavor, and then Flare Blitz on his Roost or something. If he's like down to 1 HP, I can take him out. And then yeah, basically CC is just important for the Snorlax. It's important for dealing as much damage as I can to Zygarde. If I'm not at like 1%, I can use Endeavor. It's just pretty reliable versus his team. If he does bring Snorlax, I will aim not to sack off Infernape earlier. I'm going to want to probably preserve that because Snorlax is a huge threat. So I don't really see him bringing Snorlax, but he might. So keeping Infernape will be important in that sense. Then we have the GOAT, Goodra. This is a mon that I was really kind of unsure about, like when I was making the trades. But my boy Aki, he had faith in Goodra. He said, "Nah, man, like just wait, like use it, you'll see how good it can be." And it has put in the work ever since I've got it. And this week we are bringing it's finals. We got to bring some unconventional shit. We got to bring some fire, and this set is really nice versus this team. In all the mocks I've had, Goodra has essentially won the game itself. After I get some rocks damage and even spikes off if I'm lucky, Goodra just goes in with Dragon Tail. After some curses, Mega Heracross. If I get like 3 curses up, Mega Heracross can't 2-KO it. If I get 2 curses up, I can take on Banned Snorlax. If Thundurus can't touch me, especially with the curse up. Supersonic Skystrike only does around 50 if I'm at +1, so that's really solid. And I can actually force the Zygarde into a position where it needs to either click Z Outrage or lock itself into Outrage, meaning it's revenged by my Gardevoir. So this set is really nice. I have a Sap Sipper, so I can switch into the Roserade pretty freely. Like I don't have to worry about him clicking Sleep Powder and like sleeping one of my mons. I do have that to kind of check that. This special defense investment lets me eat up hits from Thundurus, lets me hit up Sludge Mons from Roserade just fine, and I can play accordingly. I don't see him bringing Silvally Fairy. If he does, that's a free switch into my Scolipede unless he clicks Parting Shot, in which case I can get up hazards. If I get T-Spikes, then Silvally Fairy can't beat me. I can just rest stall it, unless he's like Sword Stance multi-attack, but in that case, we do have ways to take it out. I got Bulky Shaman, Scolipede have Acid Downpour on that, so not too worried about Silvally Fairy. If he does bring it, it means he's left one of his powerhouses at home, which I'm more than happy to see. So, but yeah, thinking Goodra can put in the work. I'm going to pause it here and we're going to jump into the match. Alright guys, so here we are with the finals up against Anthony. up against Iron Flash Gaming, and this is going to be a good one. As you can see, he has not brought Stealer, which I found quite strange. I felt Stealer had a really solid matchup versus me. Obviously I do have Zapdos, but it can run Toxic, it can be like offensive Stone Edge. It's a really solid like check to Scolipede, but you know, perhaps, you know, as well as being a fantastic check to Mega Guard, but perhaps he wasn't expecting me to bring Scolipede combined with like an offensive Mega Guard. And you know, perhaps he didn't expect me to bring Zapdos, so I'll have to watch his builder. But yeah, I was happy to not see Stealer. It means that, you know, I don't have to face an offensive Stealer, which is, you know, definitely nice, because offensive Stealer is just a menace. Although I do have Zapdos and Shaman to kind of pivot between and, you know, scout for coverage, you know, leech seeds and stuff. It's still definitely a threat. And looking at his team now, he doesn't have the greatest of switch-ins to guard. He's more than likely a Fat Mew, potentially Fat Rocks Mew. This is my thoughts at matchup. He could be an Assault Vest variant of Snorlax, but you know, even offensive variants of Snorlax check my Gardevoir, kind of, because I'm not offensively invested and Psyshock isn't going to be doing a huge amount. So that was definitely something to look out for. Like, this could be Trick Room plus Banded Muck. It could be some like Belly Drum or Curse set. So preserving Ape is going to be important. Had he not brought Snorlax, I'd be more willing to, you know, let Ape get weakened early game to set up rocks and Endeavor, Fleblitz. But the fact that I see kind of Snorlax there makes me think that preserving Ape is going to be clutch. You know, pretty important if possible. So at least I determine his set. I see the Zygarde and the Thundy. We knew those would come. Mega Heracross is a massive threat, and Rose. So we unfortunately probably won't be able to get up T-Spikes. That's a bit of a pain, but you know, standard Spikes are still really nice versus his team, affecting 5 of his 6 mons. So yeah, we're going to jump into it. I'm going to lead off with my Infernape, just in case he wanted to lead off with Rose, wanting to get up Spikes turn 1. Potentially also leading off with like a Tanga Berry Mew. Could have been a really good play. He may have also made the Mega Heracross lead, which kind of would check my lead Scolipede, which would also make a lot of sense. But he does lead off with Thundurus. Now this is a good lead because it really does pressure me, you know, with the potential taunt on his side. This is my only Stealth Rocker, so he might recognize that I do want to get my rocks up. You know, given that he has a Thundy in the back, so leading with Thundy is nice. He does threaten me out with a potential Oko, even though I am Sash. Like I said, I want to keep Infernape healthy if possible. And yeah, he can also potentially taunt me, so that's definitely a threat. I'm going to switch out to Zapdos here. Zapdos covers the Supersonic Sky Strike. It covers the T-Bolt, which I don't think he's going to be like max special attack. But it also covers him going for taunt here. So I'm going to make the switch out to Zapdos. Losing a bit of momentum turn 1, it's not nice, but also losing Infernape is definitely not what I want either. So he goes for T-Bolt. He's not a Life Orb variant, and his Thunderbolt is a decent chunk. This kind of shows that he's definitely invested. He's definitely invested in special attack, but like, it's, I don't know. I feel like he is definitely a Z move on this set, or like an ice, maybe like a resist berry. That's definitely a possibility too. But this turn I'm going to go out to my Goodra just to scout for the Gigavolt Havoc if he did have it, although I do expect Supersonic Sky Strike to be the more likely bring in this matchup. But we eat up that T-Bolt. This reveals that he's definitely invested in special attack to a certain degree. I don't know if he's max, but he's definitely got packing some special attack investment. That T-Bolt did a decent chunk, so I'm going to Dragon Tail this turn, just scouting what his initial switch into Mew, into my Goodra is, and he does reveal to be Mew. So we go for Dragon Tail. We get a crit with Dragon Tail, which you're gonna see later on. It's not really that relevant, but Mew is gonna get switched out here. So this is pretty important. This reveals that he's more than likely a bulky Mew. He may have been fearing, like, I'd shown to have lefties and I'd shown to be quite bulky, but I could have been like Ice Beam or something. Either way, Mew tanked anything from this Goodra. The fact that I'm not Specs means that Mew is even safer of a switch into this set, so I can understand him switching into Mew there, but we get the Dragon Tail off, and now he's going to get switched out into his Snorlax. Now right here, I want to scout out. I want to scout out for a set, so I could have stayed in there and cursed up. I could have gone out hard into my Shaman, but the problem is if he's like banded Double Edge, that's going to severely weaken my Goodra, which is looking to be a huge potential win con in this game. If I go out to my Shaman and he's banded, then I get to a Curd. Although I can synthesis up, it's still annoying. I'm still going to come out with a weakened Shaman. What going into Infernape does is if he's banned, his return is going to... The damage will be obvious to me from return. If he wants to go for banded double edge, that will be some important damage too that I'll be able to kind of determine that he's a band set. And if he's a belly drum set or a curse set, I can proceed to set up my rocks. He can get me down to my focus sash, and I can click Endeavor the next turn if he wants to attack after going for something like belly drum or curse. And then I can revenge him with anything on my team. But he's going to go for the return here, so I could have started cursing up with Gudra there and proceeded to Dragon Tail. I literally could have started setting up with Gudra and just kind of won. But his Mew does reveal to be a Taunt Willow set, so that was definitely going to stand in the way of Gudra. But I didn't really want to reveal Curse before I had to, although the fact that I have like lefties plus Dragon Tail kind of implies that I am that set. So it just wasn't worth risking it at that point. Having like a banned Snorlax on Anthony's side was a pretty likely bring, I think. So I was just not willing to risk that right there. So I'm going to go into my Infernape. We take 58 from the return, but this means we can get up our rocks. And he's going to switch out to his Zygarde, scouting for any variant of Infernape really. Like a banded Infernape, this reveals actually to be a really, really defensive Zygarde. At this point in the match, I had no idea his set, but this is a pretty solid switch in. Like looking at his team, the damage that Mew took on the Dragon Tail with the crit reveals that he's like almost max HP or max HP with no defense. So this isn't defensive. His Snorlax is an Infernape switch in. Heracross is not an Infernape switch in. Roserade is not an Infernape switch in, nor is Thundy. So obviously this Zygarde, like this kind of surprised me because I feel like Zygarde had such great offensive potential versus my team, but Anthony had a really clever strategy in this game that I won't reveal just yet. But I felt as though, you know, just judging by the fact that his Mew was like bulky but not like Fizdef, meant this is more than likely his check, as this is kind of revealed here as he brings it in on my Infernape as I go for rocks that turn. So had I been like a banded variant with close combat and he was an offensive Zygarde, he would have easily got 2 KO'd. So that's more than likely a defensive set, but the fact that he was so willing to bring this in and keep it in versus my Infernape, the only reason he'd stay in with Zygarde there versus my Infernape, or switch into it in the first place on a potential ban close combat was if he was a defensive variant. And the only reason he'd stay in with Zygarde versus my Infernape when I have a very safe switch in the back in Shaman is if he had some sort of gimmick to trap Shaman or to potentially Dragon Tail my Shaman around. Some sort of weird gimmick that would make something like Roserade or Heracross an easy switch in. So I was kind of, I just had a feeling that you know, Anthony's a clever builder, and I had a feeling that like the switch to Shaman there was far too obvious, and I knew something was coming. And we switch into my defensive guard, who I know can take a +1 land, you know, 1,000 arrows if I need to. As you're going to see, he reveals the 1,000 waves. Now this was really interesting. This tells me a lot. This tells me a lot of information right here. This move, for those of you who don't know, is a trapping move. I actually noticed this on Zygarde when I had it in March Madness. Spoilers, I'm going to upload that. I'm going to upload that as soon as I can. But this is an interesting move. It traps a mon, so prevents them from escaping, like Spirit Shackle with Decidueye does. This means that, like, had I switched to my defensive Shaman there, I would have been locked in. He could make the switch out to his, you know, his Snorlax, his Heracross, or his Roserade, you know, anything on his team really, and there's nothing I could have done about it. So this is definitely a nice bring on his part. I know he's got 1,000 waves. I don't know anything else about his set, but this does reveal that he's more than likely some sort of weird, like, bulky gimmick. He's definitely not, or chances are he's not an offensive set, because trapping Shaman, who is the Zygarde counter, as an offensive Zygarde doesn't make a lot of sense. If he's a defensive set, that makes way more sense, because he can trap and then switch to something like Heracross or Roserade to capitalize on my Shaman coming in. I guess he could be like offensive with 1,000 waves to trap on my switch in, and then switch out and then like sweep late game or something like that. But at this kind of stage in the game, I felt as though, especially judging by that 1,000 waves damage on my guard, that reveals to him to have like barely any, if any, attack investment on his Zygarde. So this turn I'm going to fire off a Hyper Voice. It's going to let me gauge damage off on Roserade if he did want to switch it in, but I could have made the kind of try hard play and just Psyshock that turn. So he makes the nice middle ground play and goes into Mew, who he knows can take a Hyper Voice as well as a Psyshock, obviously. And he takes the Hyper Voice like decently. Does 44, does a decent chunk. He's going to outspeed me and go for the roost. So Anthony crept my guard really nicely. He knew that I'd creep an adamant Zygarde, and he crept my guard creeping an adamant Zygarde. So nice prep on his part. But this turn I kind of took my time, kind of contemplated going out into Scolipede on his roost, which would have guaranteed me spikes up. Would have scared him out with Mega Horn. I know he's not physically defensive, so he's not. I know he's not Tango Berry, so Zygarde would have definitely scared out this Mew had he had he stayed in and roosted the following turn. But I am going to get him here. He's going to go for the Will-O-Wisp, as we do get another Hyper Voice off, and this is going to take out the Mew. So that's a big annoyance to my team down. This means that my Goodra is looking really threatening at this point. So he's going to go into his Roserade here. I am going to switch out. Like, I'm not trying to take a Scarfed Sludge Bomb, and even if he wasn't Scarfed, if he was the Psychic Resist Berry, he would easily be able to live a Side Shock from that range of health and kill me with a Sludge Bomb. So Gardevoir can be very useful. I'm not gonna sack it. So I'm gonna go into my switch in, which is Goodra. I know I can eat up a Sludge Bomb here, and I have shown Dragon Tail, so he could take this opportunity to predict me to go for a Curse or something, because this Roserade really is setup bait for my Goodra. It's just like, I can eat hits. I have a feeling he's a Scarfed set, as that was modest damage on my Goodra, so the only reason he'd run modest is if he's like Specs or Scarf, in my opinion. I don't think he can afford not to run Timid if he's not Scarfed. I think he would run modest as a Scarf variant. So yeah, I take that Sludge, and I figured he'd probably switch out here because I can just start setting up on this Roserade. The fact that I've got Rocks now means that, yeah, like Thundurus is going to be really pressured every time it switches in. If I Curse up, his Sky Strike isn't going to be doing shit to me. So I'm gonna Dragon Tail this turn as he makes the play of staying in and Sledge Bombing. So had I gone for the Curse there, I could have proceeded to rest up and started Sleep Talking. But he doesn't know my set too, so I can understand him staying in there. But yeah, I don't know. That was a bit risky in my opinion. Like, he could have really set himself up for a hard time with Goodra there. But he does get the crit with Sludge Bomb, which is pretty unfortunate because now Goodra's going to be taking 44% as opposed to 28. This is all important damage for stuff like Return from Snorlax, for 1000 Arrows from Zygarde. I don't really know his Zygarde set yet, but you're going to see. As well as like taking a Fly from Thundurus. So I'm going to go for the Dragon Tail here, and it does 37 to Rose, switches him out to possibly the worst thing I could get him out into. That or Heracross would have been probably equally as bad, but in comes the Zygarde, and I am going to switch out this turn and go out into my Zapdos. The reason I made this play was 1000 Waves does not hit flying types like 1000 Arrows does, so I wouldn't have been like trapped, and even if I was trapped, like the best thing he could go out really into is Snorlax on my Zapdos. So we've seen that Thundurus can't kill me from this range with T-Bolt, so I felt like this turn he either with 1000 Arrows or click Dragon Tail, as he does just click Dragon Tail here, and he's going to send my Zapdos back out into my Goodra, getting lefties, but like it's unfortunate. Like, had I gone out into Guard on the potential like Outrage or 1000 Arrows, he would have been in a really rough position. Outrage or Dragon Tail there, but you know, the threat of 1000 Arrows was also quite real, and the fact that, you know, I'd shown I was okay to switch my guard in versus his Zygarde made me kind of not really feel like switching it in right there, as Guard can get a Destiny Bond off versus the Snorlax. It can Oko Mega Heracross with Hyper Voice. It's still an important member of the team. I didn't want to risk that, but you know, we get back in Goodra, and that's pretty unfortunate, but that's okay. I'm going to make the switch out into my Shaman here, as I just wanted to see if he does want to click Outrage, you know, predicting me to like stay in and rest up with Goodra or something. But he makes the switch out to his Snorlax, and this is okay. This is okay. Like, if he's a Curse variant, I can always Destiny Bond with my Gardevoir. If he's any sort of setup variant, I can still beat him with my Infernape. If he's Curse, I just beat him with my Gardevoir. I go here for the Leech Seed just to get some nice recovery in return. You know, he could easily go for a Return here, predicting my Infernape to come in here wanting to capitalize on like a Belly Drum or something like that, as I had shown that I was willing to switch it in earlier. But yeah, going for Leech Seed here means that even if he does sit up, I can protect to get a bit more chip, guaranteeing he's in range of close combat, even if he's like a really fat bulky Snorlax from my Infernape. So we're gonna go for Leech Seed, but we miss. Unfortunate, as he's gonna go for the Belly Drum. and he's going to get his health back with his Agave Berry. So this is a very threatening set. I'm basically forced to sack versus the Snorlax. He does click Recycle here. This is okay though, like I can just get some chip damage off with Thunderbolt. It's not going to do over half, and because Snorlax is so fat, and this will put him in guaranteed range of my Infernape's close combat. So I'm going to click Thunderbolt here as we get a crit, and you may think that's good, but it's definitely bad because I didn't want that crit at all. I wanted him to be, without the crit he would not have popped his Agave Berry, meaning that he would have been in guaranteed range of close combat. So that's unfortunate. Here I have to scare him out. I have to just click close combat because I need this threat gone. But he's going to go out into his Zygarde, and this Zygarde is going to absolutely chew my close combat, revealing that he's a defensive set. So he's defensive and he's not shown lefties, which is interesting. This made me think that he could be a Rest or Chesler variant. He could be like Rest Sleep Talk as well. With like Yachi Berry as well, that could be a possible bring, or even like a Fair Resist Berry. But this turn I'm going to make the switch out here, go out into my Shaman on his Zygarde as he makes a nice double out into his Heracross. Nothing I could really do there, like I need to keep Infernape around. It's very important for the Snorlax, it's important for this thing, it's important for the Roserade. Although I do think Roserade's scuffed at this point. It's an important one to have around, and I couldn't have risked him staying in there and setting up as well. Like he was defensive, so he could be like Coil. He could be like Coil, Thousand Arrows, Dragon Tail, something like that, with like Extreme Speed or Stone Edge for Zapdos. But he makes the nice double out into his Heracross, knowing that I have to switch there. I didn't have a choice. I could have been a real man and Flare Blitz, but like that would have just not worked out at all. If he'd set in and coiled, I lost so much momentum by staying in there with Infernape. So switching out to Shaman was my play. Is he going to bring in his Heracross here, and he's going to take out my Shaman. Couldn't really have switched out to Heracross because it would have died into Infernape, would have died to a Pin Missile anyway, and it was sort of guessing games with Rock Blast. I could have gone out to my Scolipede, who would have eaten a Pin Missile, but I felt like Rock Slide could have been his play there as well, predicting that. Either way, Shaman was pretty, Shaman was kind of like expendable at this point. The fact that I've confirmed his Zygarde as a defensive set means that my Gardevoir can beat it. My Goodra has an easier time beating it because it is like Curse Dragon Tail. So I'm going to go for Hyper Voice here and just obliterate his Heracross, which means that his Thundurus is going to come in here. Now, we know this is kind of invested in special attack. This is definitely a threat, and keeping my Gardevoir around is essential because I can use it to Destiny Bomb the Snorlax, meaning that my Goodra can kind of just win. So I need to switch out here. I'm going to go out to my Scolipede. He could have potentially been Z Gigavolt Havoc. I thought he could have been Acid Downpour too, the Poison Z move, which would have been really nice because had he switched out there, I could have got a Spike Up or even like Acid Downpoured right here. But he is going to go for the Z Fly, which is going to remove my Scolipede from the earth. So unfortunately Scolipede not getting to do much, but he took a vital hit that he needed to take, which means now that my Goodra can kind of take on this Thundy. So I'm going to try and go for Rest here. Like, I could go for Dragon Tail, like predicting the taunt, but if he doesn't have taunt and he just flies here, or he decides to like go hard out into Snorlax or something, getting my health back is very important. But he's going to reveal the taunt here. Quite, good. I like the way he concealed it. Like, he could have pressed taunt turn 1 versus my Infernape to prevent rocks, but he chose to attack. So I can definitely understand that play, understand keeping taunt hidden, as it did pay off here. I did think he'd have taunt, but I lost nothing by trying there. Like, at least trying. Worst case, I get more lefties back, which is nice. So he's going to fly this turn, as obviously we're going to miss Dragon Tail, and he is going to fly, and we're going to take 40, and we're going to Dragon Tail him out, right out into the Snorlax. And this turn I could have. This is an interesting turn. Like, I haven't revealed Rest at this point, but oh no, I have, because he taunted me last turn. Rest is like quite obvious on my end. However, he's already shown to be Belly Drum, so I could this is an interesting turn. I could have Dragon Tail, expecting him to go for Belly Drum this turn on my Rest, but I decide to Rest up, as if he does Dragon Tail, as if he does decide to press Belly Drum, I could potentially Dragon Tail him out the next turn with Sleep Talk. But more than likely I do have the Gardevoir in the back to sack. I also have my Infernape to revenge, or my Gardevoir to revenge with Destiny Bond if I want to preserve my Goodra. So I'm going to Rest up here, as he does decide to go for return. So yeah, resting was the right play there. As I'm just going to sleep talk this turn. Potentially getting a curse or a Dragon Tail would be nice. We do get the curse, so his following return isn't going to be doing as much, but still doing a decent chunk. I'm going to sleep talk this turn, go for Dragon Tail, but we miss. Unfortunate. He's going to recycle, so this is like that turn. Had we hit that Dragon Tail, it would have dealt. He would have been under 50 next time he came in without having his berry. So he would have been without his berry. He would have been under 50. Snorlax would have been Snorlax would have been set up fodder for Goodra at that point, or had it come in later on in the match, he would have had to recycle first before he could have started belly drumming up to get his health back. So Goodra would have had more turns to curse and Dragon Tail. That miss was definitely it was quite a frustrating miss, because I would have been in a really solid spot there, like had I Dragon Tailed, especially if he'd gone out to something like Thunderous or Roserade. So it is what it is. So yeah, his Snorlax is going to go for the return here, as we are going to click Dragon Tail, just in case he did decide to belly drum up. But because we missed the other Dragon Tail, he was able to click Recycle that turn, he's going to get his berry back, which brings him back to full health. Pretty unfortunate, as now Zygarde is going to get dragged in. So I just can't quite catch a break with these Dragon Tail switches, but that's just that's what happens. As Zygarde is going to come in here. Now I choose to rest up this turn. He'd shown to have Dragon Tail, so I felt as though he would Dragon Tail this turn. Going for rest means that covers that play. It lets me get back as much health as I possibly can before taking the Dragon Tail damage, which is reduced because I have a curse up. But he's gonna go for the Dragon Tail and he's gonna miss, so we get some nice I guess you could say justice for the miss we had earlier, as well as the Leech Seed miss and the Sludge Bomb crit on Goodra, I guess. He's going to miss another Dragon Tail here, which is going to allow me to get another turn of Sleep Talk off. I get another curse, so it's not like I was able to Dragon Tail him out due to those misses. All I did was get up another curse, which means that his Dragon Tail is going to do less to my Goodra, so it's not like that was super game changing or anything in my opinion. As Gardevoir is going to come out here, this is going to kind of force a sack on his behalf, as he is going to bring in his Snorlax, which is the only switch in that didn't really force one of his mons to die here, because this Snorlax is at a range of health where my Sashok can't take it out, and my Gardevoir is at a range of health where his return will take me out. So I'm going to click Destiny Bond here. I didn't expect him to go for the recycle or to try and set up here. I feel like his play is to return 100%. If I go out to Goodra, he can get some big damage off with the return. If I go out to Infernape, predicting his recycle or belly drum, I get to click close combat versus his team, and that's definitely not something you want. So I knew he'd attack here. I had to click Destiny Bond just to remove this big threat. This means that this thing is no longer a problem. Had I hit the earlier Dragon Tail with Goodra, this thing would have been in range of Psyshock, but whatever. Anthony missed some Dragon Tails too, so it kind of evens itself out. He's going to bring in his Zygarde here as I go into my Goodra. I've burnt enough sleep turns to the point where I will be able to wake up this turn, so I'm going to switch out and go into my Infernape. The reason I do this is I want to be last mon Goodra. That's kind of what I want. I want Goodra to be the last one, so he can't Dragon Tail me out, so I can start cursing up and win. But he's going to go for the Dragon Tail, and he misses my Infernape. I literally was sort of sacking Infernape off at this point. I felt like he would click Dragon Tail. My Infernape would get chipped. I got to Goodra again, then I'd make the switch back out to Infernape. Sack it off. So my Goodra would be last mon, so I could start cursing up. But he's going to miss Dragon Tail on my Infernape, which means that I will be able to click close combat. I couldn't have taken out Zygarde with a close combat there anyway, so he didn't, he could have stayed in that turn, but the only thing he gained from that was he'd lose 20% and not even kill my Infernape with Dragon Tail there, so I can understand why he made the switch out there. He's going to go into his Thunderous here, and I am going to make the switch out into my Goodra. The reason I do this is because I felt like he would either T-Bolt here or he'd fly. I didn't think he'd taunt this turn, and what going into Goodra here allows me to do is to click Dragon Tail. When he hits me with fly, it's going to do 40%, around that mark. I'm going to be at a level where I can take on the Zygarde with my Goodra. if I let him kill my Infernape, he could potentially have taunted my Goodra when it came in to revenge the Thunderous, which would have meant that I wouldn't have been able to, like, if he's like, I couldn't have rested up and cursed up versus his Zygarde if my Goodra was taunted. So I wanted to, like, make it so that that situation wouldn't occur. As he's going to go for Fly here, and it's going to deal some big damage to my Goodra, but you know, we take it relatively well. We go for Dragon Tail and we miss. This definitely unfortunate. This would have meant that, you know, yeah, whatever. We we miss another Dragon Tail. Story of the match, as his Thunderous is going to click Sludge Wave here. Like, this was kind of an interesting play. Like, he could have gone for Taunt here to prevent my rest and stuff like that. I felt like that was his play, as that would have allowed his Zygarde to potentially, like, depending on its set, beat my Goodra. But he's going to go for Sludge Wave here, as I am going to Dragon Tail out. Had he taunted there on my Goodra, I had Infernape in the back to sack as his Zygarde came out, and then I could have brought in my Goodra again and then started, you know, cursing up, resting up. But his Zygarde's going to come in here, and I am going to click Rest on his 1000 Arrows, as his 1000 Arrows doesn't do enough to kill my Goodra. So, like, that turn, had he gone for Dragon Tail, I would have rested up, been at, like, taken like 20 or 30 from Dragon Tail, and been switched out to my Infernape, who would have close combated, died, and then Goodra would have come back in and been able to start cursing up on him. But he's going to go for 1000 Arrows, and it is not enough to take me out, as we do get the rest up. I can start Sleep Talking here. I do get a Dragon Tail off there, which I think puts him in range of Infernape's close combat, judging by the previous damage during the match. But I'm going to start getting, I got a curse my Sleep Talk there. This means that his 1000 Arrows, like, is going to be doing significantly less, and our next Dragon Tail will be able to take him out. Here I'm going to click Rest just in case. The reason I click Rest here instead of just going straight for the Dragon Tail is if he did crit me here, if he critted me, he could take me out with the next 1000 waves. So I'm not gonna risk it, because I could potentially miss Dragon Tail. You know, we've been missing all game, so like both of us have missed Dragon Tail, so it just wasn't really worth it when he seems to be choice locked. So I'm gonna click a Rest here, as we do wake up, and this means Goodra will be able to kind of take you know, even a couple of crit 1000 waves and be able to get a Dragon Tail eventually. So we do get the curse up here one more time, and we are going to get a Dragon Tail this turn. So that was, I believe it's this turn. Yeah, we get the Dragon Tail there. So down goes Zygarde, and that is NPL Finals Season 6. So yeah, big respect for my opponent, Anthony. Very, very good friend of mine. Sad to see him go. This is like his like his last league. I think he's leaving competitive mons. I don't know, like, if it's going to be you know, like a permanent, like he's leaving for good, or if he's going to come back like down the track. But at this stage he's you know, hanging in the towel, as he says. And yeah, very sad to see my boy go. He's been a friend of mine for you know, for years now. But you know, it's fitting that we had a match to see him off, because yeah, we've been buddies for a while, and we've always kind of had this kind of friendly rivalry going on, I guess. So hopefully, you know, you enjoyed this match, dude. I know it was pretty intense. Definitely one of the hardest games I've ever had, you know, to prep for and to play against. So yeah, congrats on your beastly season. You know, you had a crazy run, and yeah, man, I hope you guys all enjoyed the finals. It's been a pretty interesting season in the NPL. But yeah, we made it against the finals, which is pretty tight. So that's definitely fun. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, you know, let me know what you thought of the finals and the season in general down in the comments. And if you enjoyed, drop a like. Go check out my boy Anthony. Even though he's leaving, go sub to him, go check him out if you guys aren't already subscribed for some weird reason. And I'll catch you guys next time.